Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our live coverage of the latest mission from Cape Canaveral Space Force Station. I'm Will Robinson Smith, reporter with Spaceflight Now. So good to have you with us this Monday evening. We're broadcasting, as we always do, from the Spaceflight Now News Bureau here at NASA's Kennedy Space Center. Appreciate the nearly 750 of you who are with us as we're starting off the broadcast here with just a little under an hour to go before SpaceX's planned launch of its Falcon 9 rocket. Brand new booster, you can see there all sparkly and new. B-1095 getting ready to make its debut flight tonight. Our Spaceflight Now editor, Stephen Young, is running the technical operations of the broadcast. Photographer Adam Bernstein out and about getting the cameras set up, getting ready to track the Falcon 9 rocket, do some still photography once it leaves the pad. Michael and John have the evening off, but if you're not following the fellas, you can find them at their handles on X. Adam is at ABurn NYC. Michael is at MD Kane Jr. John Pisani at John Pisani Photo. And be sure to follow Spaceflight Now simply at Spaceflight Now. We are also joined with tracking assistance tonight by our friends Chuck and Jen Briggs with C&J Images, as well as Pete Karstens with Max Q Productions. I want to thank our wonderful moderators who are helping us out in the live chat today. Big thanks to Jeff Hansen, Rick Donner, and Clistia Lee. Appreciate the three of you helping us out tonight. You can make their job a little bit easier just by following the rules of the live chat. We ask that you refrain from delving into overt politics and religion, that you do not type in all caps, that you converse in English only so that our moderators can respond appropriately, and that you be kind to one another in the chat. as we're getting things rolling here with the broadcast, do want to apologize up front if I don't sound quite as up to snuff as I normally do, going through a bit of an allergy spell that is quite thoroughly kicking my butt, to be quite frank. So I'll lean heavily on, as Callistia likes to say, the Tea and Halls Fund is very well in use tonight. So appreciate the kind words, and again, apologies if the my voice is a little more gravelly or if there's a little bit more pausing than is typical in our launch commentary, trying to avoid coughing into the mic. So yeah, well, bear with me. I'll do my level best as we go through the next 53 and a half minutes here. Speaking of good support, want to thank our wonderful channel member community who make these live launch opportunities possible. So thanks to folks like Cumulus Granatus, I'm Lita, L. Ritchie, Sulfur for Lunch, Biller and Lauderdale, Butterfly, and many others. Channel membership comes with a number of perks, including discounts at our online shop, that is shop.spaceflightnow.com, access to our member-only videos here on YouTube, access to our members-only Discord server, and of course the ability to watch all of our live launch liftoff moments from here in Florida in 4K. Speaking of our channel member community, I want to thank Callistia for gifting 10 Spaceflight Now memberships, Jeff for gifting 5. Welcome aboard to our 15 gifted channel members, as well as to Julianne Phillips, who's joining at the Mission Specialist level. Glad to have you all aboard. And to our members who were just gifted membership, be sure to thank Callistia and Jeff in the live chat if you haven't already. And we hope you decide to stick around with channel membership. Last little bit of housekeeping here. If you have a comment or question about this mission or other goings on in the realm of space and spaceflight, follow the lead of folks like Bill and Lauderdale and Monkey Tree Rob by using the YouTube Super Chat feature to help elevate your comment. And not only will you be giving us some interesting things to talk about as we cruise on through the count, but you'll be supporting what we do here at Spaceflight Now, and that, my friends, is always greatly appreciated. To that end, Bill in Lauderdale says, let's get the night started off right for the mods. Monkey Tree Rob seconding that. Jeff Hansen with a $10 super chat saying, baby bird fresh off the farm, be $10.95. Good luck. And Jen Nanana with a $5 Australian super chat saying, get well, Will. Thank you for the kind words. And the aforementioned Callistia Lee with a very generous $20 super chat, chipping into the Tea and Halls Fund. Very much in use tonight. As we're getting things rolling here, now just about 10 minutes or so before SpaceX launch director will make the call on the start of prop load tonight. Let's go ahead and take a moment to walk through the countdown timeline, the nominal series of events that we're looking forward to ahead of a good launch of a Falcon 9 rocket. Again, in about 10 minutes or so, the SpaceX launch director will make the call on the start of prop load tonight. SpaceX does this readiness poll electronically, though, so if they're in a good position to make that call, they can take the poll a little bit earlier than the 38-minute mark. Once the go-ahead is given for tanking the rocket, fueling begins at the T-minus 35-minute mark with the loading of RP-1, a rocket-grade kerosene on board the Falcon 9's first and second stages. At the same time, liquid oxygen begins flowing on board the Falcon 9's first stage. T-minus 30 minutes is when they start loading a cryogenic helium on board the Falcon 9's first stage pressure vessels. Same will happen on the second stage a few minutes afterwards. Helium is important because it's used to pressurize the main propellant tanks during flight. T-minus 23 minutes is when the second stage RP-1 tank is full. At T-minus 20 minutes and 50 seconds is when the strong pack chill down process gets underway. Here at pad 40, we see this manifest as the so-called big vent. It starts about 20 minutes and 20 seconds before liftoff, lasting until about T-minus 20 minutes and, T-minus 16 minutes and 30 seconds when that venting starts to taper off, making way for second stage liquid oxygen load to begin at the 16-minute mark. Seven minutes out, the chill down of the 9 Merlin engines begins. That process involves flowing a small amount of liquid oxygen through the plumbing and turbo pumps, helping to protect the engines from the risk of thermal shock and damage during the startup sequence. 6 minutes before flight, the first stage kerosene tank is full. Then T-minus 4.5 minutes, we'll see the strong back retract process get underway. First, the clamp arms just beneath the payload fairings will open up. Then the transporter erector, with a strong back, reclines a few degrees away from the Falcon 9 rocket and stays in that position until liftoff, at which point transporter erector will pull back in a much more rapid fashion to clear the way for the vertical climb of the Falcon 9. 3 minutes out, the first stage liquid oxygen tank is full. Same is true on the second stage about a minute afterwards, at which point the Falcon 9 rocket is fully loaded with 1 million pounds of propellant. In the final 60 seconds, as we hear the call that the Falcon 9 is in startup, control of the countdown is handed over from the ground sequencer to the Falcon 9's onto the Falcon 9's onboard flight computers. The propellant tanks are also brought up to flight pressure at this point in the count. SpaceX launch director will give their go for launch T-minus 45 seconds out. The engine ignition command is issued at T-minus 3 seconds. And if all 9 Merlin engines are healthy and ignite as expected, the command will be given for the hold down clamps to release the Falcon 9 rocket for a T0 liftoff. Coming up here in just about 44.5 minutes, 11:58 p.m. Eastern, 03:58 UTC is the scheduled time of departure. Now about 40 and a half minutes before the planned departure of this Falcon 9 rocket. As mentioned, this will be the inaugural flight of this first stage booster, the fourth time so far this year that SpaceX has rolled out a new Falcon first stage. Our cameras here at the press site happened to be rolling when we noticed B-1095 rolling by the press site. Taking a look back at this footage from Saturday. In addition to this booster, SpaceX also has a roster of 18 other Falcon first stages in its fleet. One of those, though, B-1072, currently is only flown as a Falcon Heavy side booster. B-1091 is out testing in McGregor, Texas, currently. So far, as far as we know, that has not been assigned to its first mission just yet. Worth noting about B-1091, as it was going through testing out in Texas, John Edwards, who is the vice president of Falcon and Dragon at SpaceX, noted in a comment on X that B-1091 is actually a Falcon Heavy center core that is going to be flying, as he says, in a single stick configuration a handful of times before being reconfigured and flying as a Falcon Heavy. Goes on to say, quote, that way we get some use out of it while the Heavy customer finishes up the payload while also reducing risk as it will be flight proven, end quote. One Falcon Heavy mission that is ways out on the horizon line, of course, is the launch of Pittsburgh-based Astrobotics Griffin lander, and that will be carrying Venturi Astrolab's Flex rover to the surface of the moon. That mission's set to launch no earlier than Q4 of this year. T minus 35 minutes and counting. Assuming things are continuing to move smoothly with SpaceX, the tanking of the Falcon 9 rocket should be just now beginning. As we're awaiting signs of the fueling process to begin, here's a look at the SpaceX Falcon bar chart of progress as they've gone over the years. Coming into this launch, 59 Falcon 9 flights on the year so far, looking for flight number 60 tonight. On board are 23 Starlink satellites with 13 featuring direct cell capabilities. Of course, when we talk about the stats at the end of the broadcast, while we will mention the total number of reflights for SpaceX, of course, this launch is not going to be adding to that tally since the reflight is the launch of a booster that has flown at least once, and this will be the very first flight of this booster, as you can tell from how spick and span it currently is. And while lovely to look at, it does make things a little bit trickier when it comes to discerning when the fueling process has begun, since we don't have the soot to give us a little bit of difference in gradient. But what we'll be looking for will still be essentially the same. Just beneath the X in SpaceX, we'll start to see evidence of a frost line forming and a little bit of vapor in that area. Should become evident over the next couple of minutes or so as super cold densified liquid oxygen begins flowing on board the Falcon 9's first stage. And we're just starting to see a little bit of vapor there forming around the base of the booster. You can see just beneath that X. It's a good visual indication that SpaceX is, in fact, tanking its Falcon 9 rocket, which does commit them to the T0 time of 11:58 p.m. Eastern, 03:58 UTC. as we're now a little bit under 30 minutes to go before the planned launch of this Falcon 9 rocket. Want to thank the more than 2,100 of you who are watching with us live tonight. If you haven't already, you could do us a big favor just by clicking the like button and share the stream, allow some more folks to find their way into this live launch coverage. And for those of you who are just joining us, first off, welcome in. Hope you're all having a good resolution to your Monday. And if you weren't with us earlier in the broadcast, apologies for the slightly gravelier sound in my voice. I'm fighting quite a spell of allergies at the moment, so doing the best I can with some lozenges and tea on the side. But just as a personal note, if you happen to notice a little bit more pausing in the commentary, that is stepping away from the mic to try not to cough in the middle of comments, keep things going best we can. 28 minutes to go, so I think we'll make it just fine. But just wanted to give that caveat for those of you who were not with us at the start of the broadcast. Time now T minus 26 and a half minutes. No booster history to review, given this is the first flight of 1095. What we can do is go over the payload that's on board this Falcon 9 rocket at the top of the stack. This is a look back at some deployment video from a recent launch of Starlink satellites. You can see the distinction between the ones that are closer to the top of the second stage versus the ones a little bit higher up. Like the flight tonight, this is a stack that combines the deployment of Starlink V2 Mini optimized satellites along with ones that have the direct to cell capabilities. Those are the 13 furthest from the top of the Falcon stack here. 21 Starlinks on this particular flight that you're seeing this deployment video from on tonight's mission, getting ready to lift off in about 25 and a half minutes. There are 23 Starlink satellites in total with 13 again, featuring that direct-to-cell capability. With the launch tonight, SpaceX will have sent up a total of 622 direct-to-cell capable Starlinks so far. Tonight's launch also represents the 43rd Starlink mission of the year so far, 42nd dedicated Starlink flight, with the Starlink 13-1 mission carrying two Starshield satellites as a rideshare. Taking a look at the live chat here as we continue through the count. Want to thank channel member Grandpa Jim Pondu for being a member with us now for 10 months at the pilot leader level. Saying get well, Will. Appreciate that. Good night's rest will do the body wonders. Fingers crossed we get to that tonight. Bill in Lauderdale with a $5 super chat. Saying for Will Robinson Smith and appreciate the sentiment there. We'll refrain from some more fun beverages during launch commentary. Save that sort of thing for the weekend when there's not a launch to be paying attention to. Appreciate the kind words. Derek Brown with a $2 super chat saying for that fresh rocket smell. Channel member Nelson Ray's been a member with us now for 16 months at the mission specialist level, saying thank you, Spaceflight Now, and then gifting 5 Spaceflight Now memberships. Really appreciate that generosity, Nelson. And to our 5 newest channel members, welcome aboard. We're glad to have you with us. If you haven't already, be sure to thank Nelson in the live chat. And we hope you decide to stick around with channel membership. Thanks to Brian Beelman for a $2 super chat. Super Tech Boy with a $2 super chat as well for Will's Tea and Cough Drop Fund. Very nice of you. L. Ritchie, hoping for that Gator growl tonight. Nelson Reyes back again with a very generous $20 super chat. Saying here's some cash for some Benadryl. Thanks for sticking it out with us. Yes, we've got quite a course of cold and allergy medicine going at the moment. So hopefully this will be done and dusted and a little bit more under control by the time we have our next launch, which is currently looking like Wednesday afternoon from out at, I believe, Vandenberg is our next one after tonight. Yeah, looking at Starlink 11-16 out of Vandenberg around 2:20 p.m. Pacific. And McCaw SJ with a $5 super chat. Saying, please be well, Will. Still sound great. Excuse me. Rest your voice all you need to. Thank you for the support, McCaw. Coming up on the start of the big vent here, as we're just about 21 and a half minutes before flight. Big vent should begin in just about a minute from now. And there you see the start of the big vent right on time. And there you can see the big vent has wrapped up and second stage liquid oxygen load set to begin in about 15 seconds. Taking a look at our chat here, I want to thank Greg Smith for a $5 super chat. Who was getting pumped for the big vent. And thanks to Skunk Hogger PS4 for a $10 super chat. I think we'll hear some support for your anti-allergy fund. All of you are being very kind tonight and appreciate your understanding. For those who are in Florida, you know how rough it is right now, especially if you're prone to allergies as well. As we're getting ready to see the debut of a new Falcon 9 rocket, let's go ahead and take a moment to talk about the workhorse vehicle for SpaceX, the Falcon 9, which stands at 70 meters or 229 feet tall with a diameter of 3.66 meters or 12 feet. The majority of that is made up by the booster stage. Again, this is tail number 1095 flying tonight for a first time. At the base of the first stage are 9 Merlin engines, which burn a combination of a rocket-grade kerosene and liquid oxygen, producing 1.7 million pounds of thrust at liftoff. Around the engine compartment are black carbon fiber landing legs that will be used to land the first stage on the drone ship. Tonight, SpaceX is using the drone ship called Just Read the Instructions. Above the first stage is the inner stage. This is a composite structure consisting of an aluminum honeycomb core surrounded by carbon fiber. In the image on the right-hand side of your screen, you can see the deployable hypersonic grid fins. These are titanium winglets that provide stability and steering for the Falcon 9 as it comes back through the atmosphere. Tail first like a big old dart heading towards the drone ship. At the top of the inner stage are 3 mechanical latches which attach to the vehicle's second stage. The first stage main engine cutoff. High pressure helium is used to release those latches, and four pneumatic pushers ensure a clean separation. Also, the second stage engine nozzle is housed safely inside the interstage adapter until stage separation. Upper stage of the Falcon 9 powered by a single modified Merlin engine called a Merlin vacuum engine. Its larger nozzle is optimized for burns in the vacuum of space, and it produces more than 228,500 pounds of thrust. Today, being a Starlink flight, it will ignite two times ahead of placing the Starlink satellites into their intended orbit. Following that deployment sequence, there will be a third burn for the deorbit of the upper stage, helping to eliminate the risk of creating unnecessary space debris on this mission. Finally, at the top of the Falcon 9 stack are the payload fairings currently encapsulating the 23 Starlink V2 mini satellites. Fairing halves stand 13.1 meters or 43 feet tall and are 5.2 meters or 17.1 feet in diameter. Two fairing halves will be recovered a little further downrange from where the first stage lands on the drone ship. Following the atmospheric reentry, they will splash down under the support of steerable parachutes. You may have noticed that we haven't really talked about the weather today. That's because conditions are 95% favorable for liftoff per the 45th Weather Squadron, so weather not really much of a storyline with tonight's flight. That being said, with just about 8.5 minutes left on the clock, let's talk about where this Falcon 9 rocket's going to be heading once it leaves the pad. Talking a little trajectory here. After lifting off from Space Launch Complex 40, there at Cape Canaveral Space Force Station, the Falcon 9 rocket will fly in a southeasterly trajectory. The first stage following the green arc there on your screen. The booster following the red path after stage separation, targeting a touchdown on the drone ship. Just read the instructions. If successful, this will be the 121st booster landing on this particular drone ship and SpaceX's 449th booster landing to date. Again, in addition to the boosters, SpaceX will also endeavor to recover the fairing halves that are currently encapsulating the Starlink satellites.
tanks are pressing for strong back retract.
And as you just heard and are now seeing, we are getting pad level views and mission audio from SpaceX. Taking a look at the Falcon 9 rocket there at Space Launch Complex 40. Quick note of housekeeping. Our
Strong back
clock
retract.
in the upper right hand corner of the screen is in real time. What's coming in from the SpaceX feed is on a slight delay. So as you hear the call outs from SpaceX, those are based off of obviously their timeline of things. But as we have visuals of the rocket, we'll be making the call outs based on our tracking cameras in real time as we are still able to see the rocket. Speaking of seeing, you can see the clamp arms just beneath the payload fairings have opened up, and the transporter erector will soon recline away from the Falcon 9 rocket. As we're going through the final few minutes of the count, I want to thank Boats G for gifting a Spaceflight Now membership. Really appreciate that. Also want to thank Rocket Lady Elizabeth for a $5 super chat saying go Spaceflight Now. Great coverage. Feel better, Will. Thank you for the kind words. And thanks as well to Wolverine Warlord, another one of our wonderful channel members. And yes, slightly under the weather, probably due to allergies, maybe a bit of a cold. Doing what we can, make it through this coverage, and we'll get some rest and hopefully be in better shape during the next broadcast.
Launch abort has started.
And unfortunately, as you just heard, the abort call was just made. Reason was not given. SpaceX noted that the countdown was on hold at about T minus 2 minutes and 28 seconds by the look of it. Standing by to see if SpaceX has any update before it ends its broadcast. Of course, as we know, because of SpaceX's style of fueling, once the tanky of the Falcon 9 has gotten underway, they do not have the option to recycle the count, despite the graphic change that you just saw there. So a hold on the count is an abort, a scrub for the night, and they will have to pivot to their backup window if they're able to launch at that point, depending on the issue that caused the scrub. Noted that there was not a call for first stage lock so to complete as they progressed through or seemingly progressed through the count. Again, if you're just joining us, SpaceX has called an abort of the Starlink 12-15 mission. This was set to be the debut of this Falcon 9 rocket, the first stage, that is. SpaceX's broadcast is still ongoing, so we're standing by, hoping to learn more about the reason for the scrub call. Again, you can just ignore the T minus 15 minutes, and there you go, they cleared it anyway. That's the point that they recycle to after a scrub, but because of the fueling style that SpaceX employs, they don't have the option to hold the count. And unfortunately, a reason for the abort was not given. There were no apparent issues during the countdown process. SpaceX was fueling its Falcon 9 rocket. Things were happening on time as expected up until the point at which we were anticipating a call for the start or the conclusion of first stage liquid oxygen load. Never did hear that call, and then we heard the call for abort just about 2.5 minutes before the planned liftoff of this Falcon 9 rocket. Again, SpaceX does have a 24-hour backup opportunity to launch this mission with a window that opens tomorrow, or I guess technically now that it's a minute after midnight, later today at 11:18 p.m. Eastern, 03:18 UTC. Again, that is just their next available launch window, not a guarantee that they will, in fact, target a launch during that opportunity. It will entirely be dependent on the reason for the scrub. If it's a ground systems issue, if there's a technical problem with the rocket itself, or it could be that there was a boat in the keep out zone that would not have been cleared in time. But whatever the reason is, unfortunately, the Falcon 9 will be staying put where it is right now. SpaceX teams will be working to safe the vehicle and turn around for their next available opportunity when it presents itself. Want to thank our friends and photographers for being on standby in anticipation of this mission launch going forward. Scrub is never the way that we want to end the broadcast, but unfortunately, them's the breaks sometimes, my friends. Our thanks to Chuck and Jen for being on standby, as well as to Pete Karstens with Max Q Productions. Thanks to our photographer Adam Bernstein for setting up the cameras and being poised and ready to shoot and track the Falcon 9. Thanks to our Spaceflight Now editor Stephen Young for running the technical operations of the broadcast. To our moderators Rick Donner, Callistia Lee, and Jeff Hansen for helping us out in the live chat. Give the last word to Chad Singer, who says, sending good vibes and thoughts. Dose of Benadryl. Get some rest and feel better. Hopefully, with the scrub tonight, that'll give me a chance to get in a little bit better shape so the next time you hear my voice, it's not against the strain of whatever's going on. But appreciate you being here with us tonight. We look forward to welcoming you back tomorrow or whenever SpaceX is ready to launch. One last nugget to note: tomorrow morning is also the press conference for Axiom Space ahead of the AX-4 private astronaut mission to the International Space Station. It's set to begin at, I believe, 10:30 and will be streamed live on YouTube. Folks from Axiom Space, as well as NASA and SpaceX and the international partners that are lending their astronauts to that flight, will also be on the media briefings. So look for some updates to come from the AX-4 mission, which is currently targeting a launch from Historic Launch Complex 39A no earlier than June 8th. Well, for all of us here at Spaceflight Now, I'm Will Robinson Smith. Remember, be good to yourselves, be good to others. We will see you next time, folks. And until then, bye bye.